Will was referred to in court as the debris in the road.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
Debris in the road. The driver was found £95 and he got a 4-month ban for killing Will.
Welcome to the podcast, Death, a Changing Industry. Today we have the great pleasure to welcome Lucy Harrison and Mandy Oliver from RoadPeace. So welcome to the podcast, both of you. It's a huge privilege to have you both here. Thank you for joining us. Firstly then, RoadPeace. Looking at that organisation and the charity and the work that you do, for yourself, Lucy, who is the West Midlands and West Mercia coordinator, and obviously Mandy, you've experienced this at first hand, the support that RoadPeace offer, so I know you're a great supporter of the work they do. But first of all, to talk about the work that RoadPeace do, please.
Well, thank you for having us.
Yeah.
RoadPeace is a national charity for road crash victims. So we exist primarily to provide support to those who've been bereaved or seriously injured as a result of a road crash.
Yeah.
But we also campaign for justice and really want to see a world where road danger isn't tolerated, because road deaths are generally needless and preventable. So that's the vision.
And for yourself then, Lucy, how did you get involved with RoadPeace?
My brother was killed at the end of November 2014. He was a pedestrian walking home on the road that he lived on and crossed over and was hit by a driver doing 93 miles an hour. He left the scene. Completely, we went from planning for Christmas to planning for a funeral, and it was so distressing. His body was retained for 6 weeks. We went into the criminal justice system. It took about 18 months for the court case to conclude, and I didn't really have anyone that I could really talk to. As being very strong for my parents and my other brother and trying to keep a lid on things. And then I heard about RoadPeace and that they were setting up a new support group in the West Midlands. So I went to it out of desperation, really. I didn't know how I felt about it because the idea of sitting with a bunch of strangers talking about my innermost feelings wasn't natural to me. But it was such a relief, and it was the turning point really in me being able to kind of, you're never quite the same again.
But you're moving forward, small steps forward. It's not about forgetting anybody, you can't forget people.
Yeah.
We talk on this podcast all the time that when we lose someone we love, emotions and love for that person, they can't stop. And actually science also proves that as well. So physically, yes, which is very hard, but the emotions and that love for the person, it simply can't go. It's not possible. So RoadPeace provided you a platform to express yourself.
Just to be with the people that understood the range of emotions that I was feeling, from the kind of grief that you would expect through to the anger that his life was ended because of someone else, the stress of the court case, and I just didn't really feel anybody else around me was relating to that, because while most people have experienced bereavement, there's a slightly unique element to the suddenness of a road death.
Yeah, and I think from obviously Mandy and I know each other very well from the loss of Will. I think it sort of creates more confusion and more anguish around actually being able to move forward with your grief, because there's so many different barriers in the way. For yourself, Mandy, when you lost Will, and obviously such a traumatic time, with your grief, how have you moved forwards? And I know it's been a difficult task for you. Where are you at now since that time?
The way that I cope with life now is that I'm in a bubble. My little bubble, Will's still here. He's shearing his sheep. He's still here. And now and again I have to go into the real world. But that's how I go forward. But by doing that, with the support of RoadPeace, because where grief's concerned, there's no right and there's no wrong. You've got to do what's right for you. What's right for somebody else probably isn't right for you. So with the support of RoadPeace, I know that I'm not going mad. When I was first offered support by RoadPeace, I was thinking, no, nobody in this world knows how I'm going, what I'm going through. Yeah. But then to find out that there's this lovely bunch of people that know where you're coming from, and that in itself, it's just, the support from that is amazing. Obviously I've got family, friends that can kind of think they know what you're going through, but they're not me. They've not gone through this. And again, with Will's life being taken, it gives a whole different range of emotions to somebody that's died, not had their life taken off them. Yeah. And again, with RoadPeace and with the law, like me and Lydia, my daughter, we went with RoadPeace to Parliament to talk to MPs about changing the law. Because where Will's case was concerned, the driver was found £95 for killing Will, and he got a 4-month ban. So he didn't mean to do it, but he did drive away. Yeah. And for that alone, there's got to be more. There's got to be more. So again, with that part of it, RoadPeace, that's something else that I really, really want to fight for.
And where do you think the actual law itself then, what have you been advocating in Parliament? Where do you want it to see? Where do you want it to go?
Tougher penalties, isn't it?
Well, at the moment, particularly with hit and run cases, the law, there's kind of a loophole, and it benefits impaired drivers, to leave the scene, because there's a 24-hour window in which you can report a road collision. And so somebody that's perhaps been drinking or taken drugs can go away and sober up, come forward, okay. And then they end up just getting a charge of fail to stop, which has a maximum sentence of 6 months. Whereas if they'd actually remained at the scene and been found to be drunk at the time, they would get a much more serious charge. So we think that loophole needs changing. We want the reporting window reduced. 24 hours was set in the 80s, pre-mobile phones, when you might have had to drive away from a collision to get help. Yeah. But that's unlikely now. And we want a new charge that recognises the seriousness, because you would get the same charge if you knocked over a concrete bollard and drove away as you would a human being. And so we think there needs to be a charge that differentiates between somebody that's caused property damage and somebody that's left a human. Yeah,
this is a person.
So that's what we have a Remain and Report campaign with an organisation called Action Vision Zero, and we've been working together with families to try and get those changes through Parliament. Yeah. Fingers crossed.
Okay. So back to the platform of RoadPeace then. So what support did you receive, Mandy, there? Obviously it's a network of people, but is there any sort of education or work they actually gave to you to help you at all?
There's lots of tools that you can be given, and again, it's all individual. But one of the main things I found for myself, because I didn't want to be in a group. Yeah. In the early stages, I didn't want to hear anybody else's grief. Yeah. So we're given one-to-one, which is brilliant. So I've got a very lovely friend called Lucy. Yeah. But not everybody's just so friendly. But yeah, there's that support. There were quite a few issues with going to court and the legal system, which Lucy could answer for me, or if there's something I didn't know, Lucy would find the answer for me on that part. And again, it's just somebody there to speak to, somebody that gets it. If you don't want to do this, don't want to do that, and they don't tell you what you should be doing.
Listen to you, be present.
Being listened, listen. I've been to a few of the the group meetings, and it's actually really lovely to meet other people. It's, as we say, isn't it? It's the family that you never want, but the family you are so glad that you've got. Yeah.
So the support is there for you now. My question to you is when you lost Will, when Will died in those circumstances, what support was there for you then before you found RoadPeace? Obviously,
because of it being on the road, and that Will was killed on the road, we had family liaison officer, who I have to say I had one of the most amazing family liaison officers. But with the police, obviously they've got a hell of a lot of things to do that don't involve watching over me every 5 minutes or answering all our questions. So it was actually the police that gave us RoadPeace's details.
Okay.
Other than that, obviously family. But at that point in time, you are very, very much alone.
Yeah.
Very much. You've got your friends and family, but they don't know. They don't know what's going on in there, and nothing makes sense, does it?
Yeah.
When that happens, you're in such shock, such trauma, you can't make sense of it yourself. But like I say, we get in touch with RoadPeace, and they've all been there.
Yeah. So on the podcast, we talk about connection points quite frequently, and that is things that we can do when someone dies to create that connection. And the idea of that, it helps us move forward as time moves on. So Will's service took place in 2022, was it in June? And with the funeral service, there's lots of things that you did, such as the transportation we used, and his friends' involvement. Did those things that you did during that time, have they helped you at all as you've moved forwards?
Most definitely. It's all about Will.
Yeah. And it always was, wasn't it?
And it always was.
Yeah.
And I remember picking the phone up and ringing you, and I remember saying to you, right, I know exactly what I want. And I remember you saying that was good, because I could visualise exactly what I wanted. And what was nice was anything I put by you, you said, well, yeah, we can do this, we can do that. This can tweak, that can tweak, but I got exactly what I wanted.
We had a tractor and trailer
Yeah,
for
I was going to say,
engaging
he
with
went
us.
on his tractor and trailer, and we were all behind him in a convoy, which is, to be honest, on the way to the crematorium, it was almost like a day out at the seaside, because we were still laughing and joking with Will, because we could see the coffin there in front of us, and it was Will's tractor, it was Will's trailer, so it was Will. To us, it was very much Will. His best friend drove the tractor with Will's dad in there. His other close friends were with me, and it was just amazing. And the service, you let me do exactly what I wanted to do, and that I found very, very comforting. And we knew we came away from there, and we all said we did that right. And again, you gave us those options. And
options is one thing, but it's also control, and that's something I always come on to. And I think we've discussed this as well, Lucy. It's about how we give control to the bereaved, to people over their loved ones. And actually, when a funeral director gets involved, that person doesn't become our possession, or it's still there, it's still yours. Will always be yours. He was yours then, he's yours now. And it's about how we demonstrate that and help you with that as well, to ensure that happens throughout and it's consistent. And even in connection points, here today, we've got the hedgehog, which you gave us, which is made up of Will's clothes.
It's made up of Will's clothes. It's rag rug, which is crafting has helped me a lot over this time. And I didn't know, here we go, I didn't know how to thank you enough for doing what you did. You gave me exactly what I wanted for Will, and it was just a Will day, complete Will day. And I thought, I'm not going to send a card, what can I do? So all of a sudden I just decided, right, I can always remember coming upstairs and you've always got wonky doors. And I just thought, rag rug doorstop. So as I was making that, everything that's made with is Will's.
It's fun for me to be given that. It's a huge honour. The hedgehog sits very proudly in our arrangement room, so every funeral I ever arrange, that's there, part of that as well. So, but again, from a connection point of view, doing that, making that, did that help you as well, doing it?
Yeah, definitely. Anything to do with craft, looking forward, whenever that day comes, I want to make things for other people. I couldn't stand to look at Will's clothes in a bag, even his boots. Couldn't stand to look at anything of that. So I wanted them still around me, and I wanted special people to have part of this as well. So I made crazy patchwork cushions. So his best mate and his godfather, I used Will's work clothes and made these patchwork cushions for them to keep. And on Rob, Will's best friend, on the back of his is the pair of trousers that Will wore last time he saw Rob. So it's special to Rob. And the one with Chris, Will was a rugby player, and it got the Bridgnorth logo, Bridgnorth Rugby Club logo on for Chris. And I think if I can do that for other people, then that's a good thing.
Yeah, it's selfless. You're well, firstly, it is helping you, but secondly, from a connection point, you're providing other people connection points.
Yeah, if I can make something for somebody else that they know.
It's also a holistic process for you, so which is really helpful, which I don't think people do enough. And that's what this podcast is about, is to try and highlight another way to move forward. And I know it's been a difficult journey for you, but carrying out these rituals can really help us move forward with our grief. Lucy, as a sort of charity, are there any other things that you provide the people that you look after with this sort of, or advice like Mandy's doing here, this like innovation, any other bits and pieces?
In West Mercia we are able to provide the one-to-one support because we have commission services here across the whole country. We've got a helpline which is 9 till 5 Monday to Friday. We run a resilience building programme, which is an 8-week online programme where we talk about the psychological and physiological impacts of grief. And then our local support groups, they meet primarily for support and to link people together, and that what Mandy was talking about not feeling like you're going mad and being reassured that you're not going mad is such a vital part of that. We've done walk and talks. We created a book, an anthology with people's experiences for those that are perhaps a little bit too nervous to come to a group or to speak on the phone straight away.
So some contact with them. Have
a flick through. There's input in there from mums, dads, sisters, brothers, grandparents, children that have lost parents, and they can flick through and think, oh, somebody else thought like I'm thinking. There's nothing wrong with me, I'm not going crazy, because that's something that we hear a lot, the pressure on people to feel after a funeral everything should go back to normal and you need to move on, and it takes an awful long time to
as I said at the start, I don't think you ever get over this stuff, but it's how we move forward.
It's exactly
and that's
right.
The key part of this.
And I hate that phrase, move on, really.
You can't move on.
The pressure that it puts on people.
And actually some people don't want to move on, and actually some people don't need to move on.
And so it's amazing. I always remember I went back to work because I wanted to cope and have some normality. But because my brother's body was retained, his funeral couldn't take place until he was killed the end of November. His funeral was the middle of January. Yeah. And I remember being at work and it was Christmas party day and everybody was like, in the mood for the Christmas party, what's wrong with you? And I was just like, I haven't even had my brother's funeral yet, like, please.
It's like holding over you, it's waiting over you, isn't it, almost, for that to happen? And that's just one part of it, the funeral.
Yeah, and people were like, perhaps you should go to the doctors if you don't feel better by now. And it makes you feel like something's wrong with you, you become reluctant to talk at all about it. It's almost like you're carrying this thing that you're ashamed of, and actually we need to talk about grief because it's really hard and we need to be able to be open.
That's what I've been saying for some time now with the stuff I'm doing in Parliament, teaching the people in schools and at younger ages, teaching people who don't go through a loss at that young age, they are as important as the ones that do, because like I say, your work colleagues then they have an understanding, some kindness and compassion about how you're feeling or how you might be feeling, some awareness, and that's all we're asking. Having all the answers isn't always possible, but just being aware that someone's having a tough time and just give them some space. Absolutely. Check in, are they okay?
Absolutely, and checking in is so important, and not avoiding people, because we hear that too, where people literally cross the street because they don't know what to say.
You lose friends along the way, and it's not fair because those people, they're not sure what to say.
Yeah.
And some simple tools, and actually suddenly those people who cross the road for you, Mandy, Suddenly they're not to say to you, you feel that love and kindness from them. They feel nice when they go away thinking she knows I got her back, and the world's a better place. But at the moment, people aren't sure what to do.
I found that I did start kind of preempting what people would be like. I went into a local shop, and the lady was absolutely horrified to see me come through the door. And you could just read her face as if to say, oh my God, what am I going to say? And she just looked at me and she said, I just don't know what to say. And I kind of broke the ice and I just said, well, start with hello, and so I found that I was doing that to kind of ease there.
But it's almost, at that time, wouldn't it be great if they just had a few simple words to say to you? Because I remember the loss of my mum, I was constantly concerned about other people being embarrassed around me. And it's like, I shouldn't be, it could be so much better, that whole process and time. It's a great shame.
Like you said, it's having the tools to be able to cope with it and know that however you're feeling, you're not on your own. That is the most important thing. And I can remember that I was told by an adult that when one of their parents died, he was at school, and he basically spent the whole time at the end of the playground on his own crying, because his friends couldn't deal with him crying. They said he was a sissy and this, that and the other, and the teachers hadn't got a clue what to say, what to do. So he spent his lunch times, break times on his own. Whereas that is when he really would have needed support.
Isolated, totally, just
because
no
people don't know how to deal with other people who are going through bereavement, and that's so sad.
And I just keep saying as well, the information is out there. The tools are out there, and it's not difficult. Just showing up, just being present, listening. Taking some food onto someone's house, just some small acts can be so powerful. Is there any other advice, Lucy, that you give to people to try and help with this as well?
I think the best friends that I've had, and what I always say to people, are the friends that accept that you're going to feel rough for a long time and they're not trying to fix it. So the gestures are really nice, and the flowers or the food, but you're not going to suddenly feel fantastic because someone's come round with a lovely bunch of flowers. So it's the people that are willing to just sit with you and be. And I remember having a friend that would go to the cinema with me because we didn't have to talk. Didn't have that exhaustion of trying to make. Just sat, and I think we used to go and watch quite a lot of children's films. I watched Peter Rabbit and Paddington Bear because it didn't require huge sort of capacity from me when I was feeling completely traumatised, really. So
that's great advice, actually, to go and do things which doesn't require much communication, just being present.
Just knowing you've got someone sat alongside you.
So RoadPeace, then, I think it's, we've highlighted how important it is, and it's the family, as you say, which you don't want to be part of, but it's there, and it's really important because people, as yourselves, have been through this. What is the future of RoadPeace? Where do you want to take things?
Well, our RoadPeace team would say the future we want is a future where RoadPeace doesn't have to exist.
Of course.
Because we would want to see no road deaths and no serious injuries. Sadly, that's a long way off, I think. And we want to be able to, provide services around the country. There's areas that we don't reach as well as we could. We need people to hear about us. In West Mercia, we've got a great situation where the police are actively telling families very early on. That doesn't happen everywhere. It was 18 months for me to hear about RoadPeace. We have sometimes people calling us 20 years after they've lost someone because they've never known that the organisation is there for them to talk to. So we just want to grow awareness and challenge the complacency, really, that exists around road death. People sometimes dismiss it as accidental, and it's very often not. So we just want to change that, and we want to be able to support more families and empower them, as Mandy has been doing, going to Parliament and doing fundraisers and doing this podcast, doing things you never thought you'd probably do. So we can keep going as a community and get our message out there.
Fantastic. And as I say, the podcast and any work we can do to support you, we're here, and hopefully those who engage with this as well can share and can highlight the special work taking place. For yourself, Mandy, looking back on your journey, is there anything differently that you would have done if you had the opportunity to do so?
I think the legal route, to be honest, I think the justice system leaves a lot to be desired. And the thing is, when you're in trauma, and you kind of tend to go with the flow. Yeah. So everything that was being said, it was kind of, I did kind of question a few things. Another thing actually that Lucy mentioned, Lucy's family were made to wait 6 weeks. And that again with RoadPeace is to get that altered. Because the grief and the outcome of Lydia, my daughter, not being able to see Will because they'd kept Will that long from us. And I know you said the same, didn't you, that's what happened.
Do you think as well, regarding seeing somebody who's been through a road accident, do you think it's, again, we're all unique and individual, do you think it's really important though to see that person regarding understanding what's going on and actually this is happening, that acceptance almost?
Yeah. Again, a funny word to use, but I think I class myself as lucky that I actually identified Will. So I actually saw him when he was Will. But then because of the stupidity, I suppose, of others and the way the legal thing goes, we were made to wait that 6 weeks for nothing, really.
What's that 6 week wait for?
Well, we did. I caught you say accident as well, by the way. We don't say accident at RoadPeace.
Oh, okay.
We say crash collision.
Sorry.
That's all right. So when someone's killed in a road traffic collision and someone's implicated as being involved, a forensic post-mortem will normally take place, which in itself is really distressing. But most families accept that needs to happen. Then the defendant is very often given the chance to consider having a second post-mortem, which would look to dispute the fact that the road traffic collision was the cause of death, which is pretty ridiculous in most cases. You might get a really unusual situation where somebody'd had a medical episode behind the wheel.
Okay.
So, for example, with my brother, we were told we had to wait for the defendant to think about whether they wanted a second post-mortem, to look at whether he'd got an underlying heart condition and would he have survived if he hadn't have had that. It's ludicrous. He was a 39-year-old fit man, and eventually they decided they weren't going to do that. But we had no power over saying, well, we want his body released, we want to have his funeral, we want to put him at peace.
There's no control.
There's no control, and you think, my loved one is being treated as evidence, not a human being.
They actually called Will evidence to me.
No dignity.
Wow.
No respect.
Again, we talk on here about like a clinical way of death, and it's like that's the issue, isn't it? We forget almost as a human touch. We are connected as humans, and actually suddenly the language and all these processes.
And the property of the coroner, that's the one that gets me. And, it's like, that's my brother. He's not the property of the coroner.
That's a person.
Yeah.
Will was referred to in court as the debris in the road.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is unbelievable.
The debris in the road. And you've got us sat there and you can't say nothing.
How are we getting it so wrong in society? What's happened?
I think this process that needs to go through for justice, and that's important, but it's so geared toward the defendant, and it's lost its compassion.
That's what I mean. Like it's not even the processes, but it's also the language used.
There's so much that needs to change there.
We felt all along that we were the ones that were we were in the wrong every step of the way. Is
it because a road traffic collision, it's so traumatic, everyone's kind of just like, oh, don't get too involved in this. This is uncomfortable. Is it that? Why is it? Why are we just so poor?
It could be an element of that. It could just be. It's
just so very, very, very cold. isn't it?
And,
Cold,
yeah.
Inhumane. It's and that doesn't help.
No.
Obviously, when you're going through the trauma.
Yeah.
You
need because of the trauma and that collision. You need to have even more care and support around you. Not the opposite.
I think it's the investigative. Is that word? Side as well. So whereas you think, like when I lost my grandparents, terribly sad. The family come together. It was warm. We were able to visit them in the chapel of rest.
Yeah.
And
there's a structure.
In a road traffic collision, it's like you've got police in your house, you've got the CPS contacting you, you've potentially got lawyers, you've got news reporters on your doorstep, and all the kind of like privacy and comfort goes because you're thrown into this completely alien world. And you're trying to understand, like, well, who's my family liaison officer? What do they do? What do I need them for? Will I have to go to court? That's really scary. The court environment for a grieving family is so intimidating.
So like death alone, I always say, is like the fearful time, and it's the unknown. The two together, it's just chaotic. So again, from what you've both been through, and the people that you look after at RoadPeace, it's like on another level, really, isn't it? Of like no control and chaos.
Complete loss of control.
With Will, like again in the media.
Yeah.
Front page, I think it was. Like it's intense.
Your whole world is open, laid bare for everybody.
Yeah.
And when that time is when you need to kind of think, right, let's just get a stock of this. What has happened.
It's just constantly like running away from you.
Yeah. It's not about Will. It's about this story. Yeah. This bad person's run over and gone, and it's like, yeah, that was the case, but this is about Will. We've lost Will. Yeah. It's not a story for you lot to, get your teeth into and want to know this, want to know that. But that's it. You're stripped, aren't you?
I mean,
you are stripped of it.
The media can be really helpful when you're at a point that you want to tell your story. Yeah. But I remember you kind of asked almost on day one, do you want to release a photo? Do you want him to be named? And we said no, we don't want that just yet. So they took his name off flowers left at the scene, and it felt, and the reporter literally wrote, we took his name off, and I just thought that's like really distressing. And you're just thrown into this horrible world. And also remember being at work and walking through, I worked in a big manufacturing company at the time, walking through the factory floor and hearing somebody go, that's that girl whose brother's died.
Yeah.
And you think, I'm not me anymore. Like I've become that girl whose brother's died.
Yeah, I know exactly where you're coming from on that one. It's like, I've always been Will's mom, like rugby, Will's mom, yeah, that's fine. But it's like, it's Will's mom. But now it's Will's mom. That people's attitude and how, like, I will always be known as poor Mandy, Will's mom. Yeah. Whereas, it totally changes the dynamics.
Yeah.
It does.
Again, I think you said that your identity.
Yeah.
Who you are.
Yeah. Mandy's gone. The Mandy that still is Will's mom, but in that life, I've gone.
Yeah.
I'm a different person.
Yeah.
With different values.
Yeah.
Different.
It's a new world.
It is, and as I said to you earlier, over Christmas I kind of had this, looking at the door.
Yeah.
And thinking, what am I waiting for? That door was never going to open with Will the other side.
Yeah.
So what am I waiting for? So that's when I decided, it's like, right, you need to get up. I'm going to watch you don't swear now. I did earlier.
You're allowed, Mandy. I'm not.
I need to get up. I need to kick myself up the backside.
Yeah.
And do something.
Yeah.
And what I want to do is like things with RoadPeace to make a difference for other people, like doing this, to make a difference for other people.
Yeah.
Losing Will, the worst possible thing in my life. But I want to try and turn around. Will always helped everybody. Yeah. If you needed something, he was there. And I think I want to take that now with me to help other people to deal with what me, his friends and family are all having to deal with.
I don't think you have seen it, but you've already done that as well. You've been doing it for some time. You know, initially, even straight after his death, you're there, getting his best friend to drive his tractor. Yeah. You're doing these hedgehogs for me, you know, so you're already doing it. So now it's about, I think, for you to start to understand that, you know, how special you have already been. And now it's just about being empowered from within and just to now go on to even do bigger and even better things, which you're capable of doing.
We've got to make a difference.
Yeah.
Definitely got to make a difference.
You absolutely are.
Yeah. Like you say, at Christmas time, you're looking at the door. It's about understanding and knowing that physically, yes, he is gone, but that emotion and love, as I said right at the start, you can't get rid of it. So he'll always be around you.
I'd say in my little bubble, he's still here.
Yeah.
And it's like even like planning like the rugby tournaments and things like that. Obviously, we've got a nice little team of us that do it. I don't actually do a great deal in that, but we've got a little team that does it. It's as if I'm doing it for somebody else, not Will.
Yeah.
It's like, we've got to do this, and this is what's going to happen, and this is what we need.
And that's what I'm getting at. I think you're protecting yourself to a certain extent, but your subconsciousness will know it's for Will.
Yeah.
On the surface, though, you're just fighting through it. When you start to connect the two, though, you'll be like, wow, look what I'm doing. Because everybody else is like, wow. So it's only you now that needs to realise it. So, and then you'll be there.
As long as I'm doing some good, that's the main thing. And that's what I want to do.
No, I think as Lucy and I can both agree.
Yeah, and I mean, you are brilliant and amazing, and I think you make such an important point, because we see with Mandy and lots of the families that we support, they feel a bit frustrated at themselves. They're very tough on themselves.
Yes.
They're not doing enough fast enough, and actually sometimes it needs RoadPeace and people like yourself to point out and say, hang on a minute, look at everything you've achieved.
You're wrong.
I'm wrong. I cannot be wrong.
You know, in the wake of all this tragedy, just functioning each day is an achievement, and yet you were doing tournaments and events and
I do say though,
parliament trips.
It is medication as well.
You know.
But no, I've got to stay here, and I've got to make a difference. And I've got a daughter, and I've got 2 little granddaughters, and whatever I do in the rest of my life, I want it to hopefully not have to involve them like it has obviously with me losing Will, but if it can be brought into school, then as they grow up, the 2 little girls grow up, they'll be able to deal with their own grief as well as somebody else's grief.
Exactly.
You know, and I think that is so important. Really, really do.
Well, I will continue to fight throughout until this happens. Yeah. So, I'll be there with you.
And obviously with RoadPeace as well.
We definitely will support that all the way.
Thank you. You are both inspiring people.
As are you.
Quite right.
It's not about me. And RoadPeace as well. I think the work, like you say, it's the family which you don't want to be part of, but it's an inspiring, and it's so needed in society. So thank you both for what you're doing.
Thank you from RoadPeace.
No, thank you.
You're welcome.
You know, I'm so glad to know you. Just wish it was in a different way.
This is it, isn't it? Yeah. But then it's so nice, in a way as well, that through Will,
connections here. I mean, help other people. Thank you both for your time. A huge thank you for watching our podcast, Death, A Changing Industry. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, as we have some fascinating guests lined up. Thank you so much.